more countries are adopting green energies, which rightfully they should do. And there's no greener energy with the same power output, the same energy efficiency as nuclear energy. It's baseload power, which is what we need, especially with all these new electrified vehicles everywhere, and toothbrushes and headphones. AI is coming on large now. Governments are supporting AI development, cryptocurrencies. All of these things are a huge draw on our grids, and we don't have the energy resources to fully realize all of those. So it's the energy crisis is happening, and we need nuclear energy to support it. It's as simple as that. We made a discovery, and it is near surface. We call it ACCIO. It is high grade. Mineralization starts as shallow as 25 meters beneath the surface.
The uranium price saw a huge increase in 2023. One of the reasons was the years of undersupply. The growing popularity of nuclear power and green energy shows that we need more mines, so exploration is therefore more important than ever before. This is why today with me is James Sykes. He's the CEO and Director of Baseload Energy. James, first of all, it's good to have you. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Very happy to be here.
So James, maybe before we talk about your company and your exciting projects, why don't we just start by you giving us a general overview about your thoughts on the uranium market at the moment? I mean, the spot price basically went up above $100 within a couple of months last year, has now cooled down a little bit to like $80, $82. How would you rate the situation? Are you expecting higher prices soon again, or are all the problems we've had in terms of undersupply solved now? How do you rate the situation?
Look, I've been a uranium bull since as long as I can remember. I believe in nuclear energy. I think it's our path forward. So I guess I'll give you a biased view on it all, which the price of uranium had to go up. There was no doubt about that, and it still has lots of room to go up, because even with the price jumping from $16 back in 2016 up to where it is now, it hasn't incentivized enough mines, new mines or mines that were on care and maintenance to come back online. So that supply demand imbalance is still quite large and prevalent for years to come. And I know a lot of investors really got shaken up when the price went from over $100 down to 80. But what they don't really envision is that price actually has gone up from $20 and $30 up to 80. And that's a very healthy move. And it has stayed there. Looking beyond the spot price, the long-term contract prices have also increased significantly. They're up to between $75 and $80. And really that's the price to watch. Although it's a little bit more opaque for most investors, when you see that long-term price move, the long-term contract price increase, that's a big bullish sign that the uranium market is hot, that prices do have to continue going up. And I can't recall a time since, in the last 20 years where that long-term contract price has increased as rapidly as it has. I've been to a few conferences in the past few years dedicated to nuclear energy, and have met with traders and people within the nuclear industry itself, and everybody's saying the same thing, that this is the best uranium bull market, best nuclear bull market they've ever seen in their careers. Some of these guys have been around for 40 and 50 years. If you really do look at the history of it all, the world hasn't seen nuclear build out to this capacity since the 1960s and 1970s, when nuclear energy was first deployed globally. Most of it's being led by China and India and other places, but the build out is incredible. So yeah, we see that build out continuing to happen as more countries are adopting green energies, which rightfully they should do. And there's no greener energy with the same power output, the same energy efficiency as nuclear energy. It's baseload power, which is what we need, especially with all these new electrified vehicles everywhere, and toothbrushes and headphones. AI is coming on large now, and governments are supporting AI development, cryptocurrencies. All of these things are a huge draw on our grids, and we don't have the energy resources to to fully to fully realize all of those. So it's the energy crisis is happening, and we need nuclear energy to support it. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. I mean, you're saying it's as simple as that, but as you can hear on my accent, I'm from Germany, and here we do have a different situation, right? We decided to shut down all the nuclear power plants with it, which is absolutely stupid in my opinion. But especially the German shareholders or investors should know that this is only Germany, right? All the other countries are building up their nuclear power plants, and this is why we have this huge increase of demand, and this is very interesting. So do you think we are just at the beginning of a bull cycle here? Is it just a start?
Absolutely. I think it's got a lot of legs to grow.
Sounds good. Sounds good for all the interested investors. So, James, let's have a look at baseload at your company, right? At the beginning of this year, you had 20 million Canadian cash in your bank. The Sprott Uranium Miners ETF, as well as other institutionals and funds, have been on your share registry. How did you get that much interest from the professionals already? I mean, you're still pretty small, right? Tell us what makes your story so exciting, especially for the professionals, and why should retailers now listen to your story?
I think there are three things that really put baseload in its own category amongst our peers. Number one, my experience. I've been in the industry since 2006. I've been part of a lot of big discoveries. I have about 550 million pounds of uranium discovery to my name, directly and indirectly. Most notably, I was the chief geologist behind NextGen Energy's Arrow discovery, which, if anybody's investing in the uranium space, they probably know NextGen and they probably know Arrow. But it was at that time when I started developing a thesis that there are more basement hosted uranium deposits to be discovered within the Athabasca. And that was what really formed baseload, was this new idea that we shouldn't be looking for these deposits that occur within the sandstone, because there's a lot of engineering and technical issues with those deposits. To move a deposit within the sandstone in the Athabasca, you need to have large tonnage. You need to have super high grades, such as Cigar Lake and MacArthur River. Both of those were over 300 million pounds, both over 20% average grades when they started mining. With all of the other deposits that are in the sandstone and they don't meet those credentials, guess what? They're not in production. Will they ever see the light of day? Well, there's some new technologies that are being developed to move those, such as Denison's ISR or Orano's Sabre. But that's the kind of foresight that people needed to have. They needed to reinvent the wheel for these. But our idea that you're looking for basement hosted, near surface, high grade uranium deposits that are open pit amenable, there's no reinventing the wheel. And if you look at the history of mining within the Athabasca Basin, all of the open pits built all of the mills in Saskatchewan. Every single mill was built by an open pit, not an underground mine. Cigar Lake didn't build the mill, nor did MacArthur River. The mills were built prior to those mines with the open pits. Open pits have been probably some of the best resources to put into production within the Athabasca Basin. Again, because they've been closer to surface, more cost effective, quicker on the permitting side of things. So typically in northern Saskatchewan's Athabasca Basin, open pits have gone from discovery into production within 6 to 12 years. That's across the board. Whereas some of these sandstone type of deposits that are deeper and have water issues, they haven't gone in production in 50 years plus. The Cigar Lake is a great example of that. It took about 40 years to go from production to discovery. And that's a time frame that investors do not want to wait around for. Investors want to see return on investments. They want to see a company with a deposit go into production. So our thesis, being number two, really differentiates us from our peers. Number three, again, with the track record, with the thesis all put together, on our first drill program in September 2021, we made a discovery, and it is near surface. We call it Akio. It is high grade. Mineralization starts as shallow as 25 meters beneath the surface, and we're within logistical distance from a mill and other infrastructure. So great discovery to have made, and we're happy to continue moving it forward.
That sounds good, and that brings me to my next question regarding your discovery. You've drilled, as you already said, high-grade uranium mineralization pretty close to surface, and this year 12,000 meters of drilling are planned as well. So what can we expect from this drilling program? And let's also talk about the first resource estimate. Can we expect this in 2024 as well? Give us a little bit more of insight on this.
Oh, we're excited for this year. We think there's a lot of great opportunities at Accio. So yes, as you mentioned, we have 12,000 meters committed to Accio for this year. That will be mostly put into delineation and definition drilling, trying to firm up the mineralization that we already know at Accio. But there are some areas that we need to grow as well on strike. So specifically to the northwesternmost pod of mineralization that we have, we still have open ground there that we ended off with a hole that had 8 meters at 1%, basically. So good high grade mineralization, shallow mineralization, open on strike. We're also going to be completing some ground geophysical surveys to map out the structures that are hosting or controlling mineralization within the Accio system. And we're pretty confident that we should see the system continue to the southeast as well, but also at depth, which we've never really targeted. The deepest mineralization we've intersected so far was about 320 meters deep. That was in our discovery drill hole. We haven't followed that up simply because we've been focused on the low-hanging fruit, everything from 0 to 200 meters in that open pit range. But now that we're going to be mapping out the structures at depth, those will become viable targets. We've also got we do have sandstone on our target, but it is a very thin skiff, not one that would have water issues or impede any possibility for advancing the project into a mining stage. As we know that it's a very thin, shallow sandstone that we have on the project, but that therein lies some of really good potential that we have for sandstone mineralization. And the importance of that is that's where you typically get your 5%, your 20% materials. So if we can discover the ultra high grade mineralization typically associated with the sandstone style of mineralization, then we think we can build up tonnage very quickly. Yes, the idea is to have an NI 43-101 mineral resource calculation completed on Accio that we know so far by the end of the year. If we are discovering more mineralization on strike or at depth, those may or may not make it into the resource calculation, and they could add additional potential to grow resource after the initial one comes out. We've put more effort into drilling Accio to come out with an indicated resource instead of inferred, just so it has a little bit more viability to it. Again, we believe that Accio is a mineable deposit, so we'd like to advance it as much as possible. Again, to bring it to market. We also have 4,000 meters planned for exploration on the Hook project as well. So Hook is the project that hosts Accio. Mm-hmm. 4,000 meters are dedicated to making another discovery along the same structural corridor that hosts Accio, as we do see a number of geophysical anomalies that look like they could be hosting the next uranium deposit on the Hook project.
Wow, this sounds good. This sounds interesting. And I think that explains a little bit why you already have large funds and large institutionals into your stock. I mean, it's still a speculation phase, right? But it seems to be that you're on the right spot in the right time. So all of this sounds pretty good to me. You already said that you won't be only drilling on your Accio prospect, also on the Hook project general, but you also have 3 more projects from what I know. What are your plans on those within the next 12 months? Can we also expect some news flow from other projects, or are you focusing on a flagship project only?
With the price of uranium accelerating the way it is and investors looking into the uranium space, we figure that now is the time to make an additional discovery. And so we're not just strictly focused on Accio or Hook. Correct. We're also exploring our Catharsis project at the moment. We announced news back in February that we had started a drill program, and we increased its drill program meterage from 2,000 to 4,000 meters because we liked what we were seeing in the rocks in the first 3 drill holes. Very encouraging alteration to structures. So Catharsis hasn't wrapped up yet, but it will be shortly. And we'll have news out about that. Starting in May, we'll be going to our Bear project. We've never drilled it, but it was drilled historically. And along the structural corridor of interest where we have our geophysical anomalisms, we're seeing a few encouraging things. We're seeing the possibility of a radiometric boulder trail to the southwest of where our targets are. So again, that would be in the down ice direction, which is absolutely encouraging because if those boulders came from the target area, then we know we've got a fertile source. Also, along the same trend that we'll be drilling over a kilometer away to the northeast, there was a historic drill hole drilled in 2006, I believe, 2006 or 2010, that did intersect anomalous radioactivity over considerable width, but it demonstrates that this trend could be fertile for mineralization. Maybe the trap that hosts a larger deposit was simply never drilled. So with the $20 million that we have in the bank, as you mentioned earlier, we've got a lot of exploration planned for this year. We've got a lot of development, and where the potential for a new discovery within the baseload projects is quite high.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you very much for summarizing that. And James, when I do these interviews, I'm always in my head, I'm ticking the boxes, right? We talked about your money. You do have the cash to finance all of this. We talked about you as a CEO, because I always tell the people to have a look at the CEO. Does he have experience? Is he good at what he's doing? Does he have the credibility in the market? And I think we touched base on this pretty good as well. Also, we talked about news flow. There will be steady news flow from what I understand. You've got a high grade already, so it's all of this seems to be pretty exciting. We've got the market conditions with uranium price pretty high up. I think the only thing that comes to my mind, which is left, but I mean, we're at the Athabasca area, right? The infrastructure. Will there be any problem in the future? Tell us more about that, or is there anything else that we are missing?
Oh, infrastructure is perfect. And that was a large consideration of what we were looking for when we put this company together and picking our projects. We didn't want lakes. We didn't want areas that we knew were going to have contentious issues with indigenous groups. We wanted to be near a mill because we know how difficult it is to build a mill. Not only is it time consuming, but it's very capital intensive, especially if you don't have the know-how to build a mill. And yeah, so we wanted to be near a mill, which means we're going to be near roads as well and power lines. So all of our projects are uniquely situated in the southeast corner of the Athabasca Basin, where there is a current mill that exists. One of our projects has the road going to the mill cutting right through it. So infrastructure is no problem, and we've already engaged some companies to help us investigate the cost for increasing the infrastructure specifically towards Accio, and it seems to be very cost effective, very quick to develop. So yeah, perfect projects with abundant infrastructure in place and easy to develop moving forward.
Sounds great. Is there anything else investors should know right now before they consider an investment into your company? Is there anything missing that we haven't talked about?
I think we've hit all the important parts. Mm-hmm. I definitely think that this has been a great conversation. Thank you for the opportunity. And hopefully investors understand that baseload has done things differently. We're specific about it, but we've been very, very thoughtful in our approach, and it has already proven to be successful. And we'll continue to do so. With the cash in the bank, with our experience for making discoveries, we think that baseload has the opportunity to make another discovery this year. And if we do, we believe that our share price and our shareholders will be greatly rewarded.
All right, James, thank you very much for your time and presenting us your exciting story. As always, this is no investment advice. And if you have any questions, please let us know in the comments below and we can answer them or pass them to James. And I think he will be happy to answer them. Thanks for your time, James, and talk to you soon. Good luck with your projects.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure.